Welcome to an NPSMA Best Practices Seminar. Today's topic is how to start and maintain an advisory board for your PSM programs. I'm Linda Strasbaugh, the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the NPSMA. As we know, having an active and engaged external or employer advisory board is mandated by PSM affiliation guidelines. And in fact, this active engagement with employers is a distinguishing feature of our PSM programs. We look to our advisory board members to provide us with advice, to keep us up to date on employment needs and trends, and to make sure that our curriculum continues to include those skills that employers value. The advisory board is a way to expand the network for your PSM program. By using employer advisory board members as guest speakers, instructors, and mentors, as well as helping with internship and capstone projects, our students are constantly exposed to the employment environment. Advisory board members can also keep us aware of employment opportunities for our students. And importantly, they can promote the PSM degree and its graduates to their colleagues in the employment sector. Where do we find board members? I think most of us immediately think of companies and businesses, but there are other places where we can find effective board members. Trade associations, state and local workforce and labor agencies can all be sources of good information on employment policy as well as trends. We tend to particularly value local and regional companies and industries given the emphasis of PSM programs on economic development. And in fact, we can also build on existing relationships within our universities, including our graduates who are employed and can provide a nice entree to many companies and businesses. Who are the most effective board members? One of the things that is absolutely necessary is that you either find or create true believers in the PSM concept within the companies you wish to use. Two things about selecting an effective board member. The commitment to the program and to the students is actually much more important than the position in a company. To stock your board with presidents and vice presidents and CEOs is not meaningful unless they have the time to actually engage. So having time for engagement is one of the most important qualifications for an advisory board member. Our students tend to be diverse, and it is worthwhile to keep that in mind as you assemble your advisory board. Diversity there will make those role models that we so anxiously seek for our students. Once you've identified your board members, how do you go about inviting them? You'll need to decide, first of all, on the size. Typically 15 or so members is about as high as you want to go. You need to specify in your discussions and in your letters of invitation that this is a volunteer activity. There should be a very concise explanation of the roles and responsibilities. In addition, the board members are going to want to know the nature of the investment. What kind of time are we talking about? Will there be expectations for their organization? Will there be any costs incurred? You want to appoint your board members to a specific term, typically 1, 2, or 3 years, and you construct your board so that the terms are overlapping, and that way you are not having all new members at any one time, but you retain the expertise of prior board members. It's a good idea to project the number of meetings over the next 12 to 24 months. That again is a very specific kind of information. And you also want to let your members know whether you will be expecting them to attend meetings in person or whether they can join virtually. The actual conduct of board meetings is quite important, and we must keep in mind that our board members are very busy people. So as the program director, you want to set and respect a meeting time. It's a good idea to focus on a very limited set of issues, and it's good to provide information well in advance. The type of this information you present is very important. It needs to be well organized, and it also needs to be of appropriate length and content. People are not going to want to read 10 or 20 pages of background material. And the material should be comprehensible on its own. In other words, you don't want the board members to have to visit websites or read other lengthy documents in preparation for the meeting. At the end of your meeting, you should summarize the action items that arose from your limited set of issues. And you should indicate whether there are measurable goals or milestones as you reach toward that goal. It's important to report the progress at the next meeting. In assembling our National Workforce Advisory Council, one of the things we heard over and over again when we asked members what was important to them in serving on an advisory board, it was always that there were specific things to be discussed, that there were specific goals, and that there would be report on the progress. It's important for us to realize that PSM programs evolve, and so should the advisory boards, because their roles will change. And you want to keep these things in mind as your program matures. In an early stage PSM programs, directors are worried about developing curriculum, about getting approval at the appropriate agencies, and in surveying the local employers about the workforce needs. And that requires a certain set of expertise. So it would be very good to have advisory board members who were recognized at the university or state to help with the approval process. As your program grows, the midterm PSM program will now be having a reasonable number of students. The early program has very few students, and so it tends to be focused on process. But when your PSM program reaches a midterm status, you're going to be shifting the roles and responsibilities of the advisory board members slightly. You're going to like them to serve as instructors, as guest lecturers. They should be able to be mentors and advisors to your students. One of the things we hear from programs across the country is that resume advice and mock interviews from employers creates a very important experience for their students. And many have advisory board members who fulfill this function. And also, as you become a midterm program, you're going to need internships or industrial capstone experiences. Your advisory board members can help you craft these within their own organizations, and they can also recruit some of their fellow employers to participate in this as well. The mature PSM program now has students in large numbers, and they're now looking for employment opportunities. And as your program grows in numbers of students, it's important to grow the network for employment and internships. And at this stage, in addition to the advisory boards helping with employment opportunities, they can also help acculturate their own HR department to the MS and specifically to the PSM degrees, and to make them aware that this is a qualification that they value as employers. Your mature program advisory board members can continue to endorse the PSM concept and to provide testimony to other employers. One thing that we would love to have in an ideal PSM world is scholarships to encourage participation by first generation and underrepresented students. As the demographics change, it's become clear to employers that we need to have a broader and more diverse workforce. This can represent a small investment with a very large return. So effective board members will end up assisting PSM students in all three of the ways that our programs are distinct from a traditional master's. They will help with internships, they will help prepare students for their job search, and they will help identify employment opportunities. Thank you for viewing this entry in the NPSMA webinar series, Build, Grow, and Sustain. If you would like to receive a copy of this slide set, please contact us at npsma@npsma.org. Again, we hope you found this information useful, and thank you for taking the time to view this video.